There's a moment, maybe you felt it, when everything stops. You're staring at your ceiling, your phone, your reflection, and something inside whispers, "What if it's me? What if I'm the problem?" It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's a quiet erosion of your certainty. You start to feel like something's wrong with you, like you're broken in a way other people aren't. That maybe your anxiety, your sadness, your confusion, maybe it's not just a phase. Maybe it's who you are. But what if I told you that's not true? What if that voice in your head isn't proof of your brokenness, but a signal that you've been walking someone else's path?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Carl Jung warned us, the greatest tragedy of the human soul is to live a life that is not your own. You wear masks for so long that you forget your real face. To chase goals that were never yours just because they came with applause. To inherit dreams from your culture, your parents, your peers, and then wonder why they feel hollow when you reach them. The problem isn't that you're broken. The problem is that your inner compass has been ignored for so long, it's screaming. And the more you silence it, the more painful your life becomes. Jung called this the individuation crisis, the moment when your soul begins to rebel against the life your ego has built. When the roles, the routines, the identities you've clung to start to dissolve. You feel disoriented. You start to question everything. And that's the moment most people panic. They try to double down on control. They numb. They distract. They work harder. They chase the next shiny goal. But all they're really doing is avoiding the truth. They're not living a life that honors their soul. Have you ever asked yourself, what if everything I've been taught about success isn't actually true for me? What if the job that drains you, the relationship that numbs you, the image you curate online, what if it's all part of a story that was never yours to begin with? Jung believed that every soul has its own myth, its own path, its own rhythm. And when you deviate from that path, even if it looks successful on the outside, your inner world begins to fracture. You don't feel whole. You feel like something's missing and you can't name it. That's not failure. That's the call to wake up. The real crisis isn't your anxiety. It's the fact that you've been taught to ignore what it's trying to tell you. The real suffering isn't your depression. It's the belief that your depression is a sign of weakness instead of a cry for change. Jung said neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. What he meant is this: when you avoid the pain of living a life true to yourself, you invite the pain of living a lie. And that lie begins to rot you from the inside. But here's the liberating truth: you are not broken. You are misaligned. You are out of sync with your essence. And the moment you stop trying to fix yourself and start trying to know yourself, everything begins to change. The depression becomes a compass. The anxiety becomes a teacher. The confusion becomes a doorway. But only if you're willing to stop running, to stop polishing your persona, to stop pretending that if you work hard enough, you'll finally feel okay. Jung believed that each of us has a self, not the ego, not the mask, but the deeper, wiser you that knows exactly who you are and what you're here to do. Most people never meet this self because they're too busy performing. But when the performance collapses, when the mask cracks, that's when the self begins to emerge. And yes, it's terrifying, because it means surrendering control. It means letting go of who you thought you had to be. But it's also the most beautiful thing you can experience, because it's the beginning of your real life. Let's make this practical. Think about the last time you felt alive. Not just excited, but deeply, soulfully alive. Where were you? What were you doing? Who were you with? That's not random. That's a breadcrumb, a clue. Your soul leaves them everywhere, trying to lead you back to your path. But most of us are so distracted, so conditioned, so busy chasing the next goal, that we miss them entirely. And then we say, I don't know what I want. But what we really mean is, I've forgotten how to listen. To beat this game, you don't need to find some grand purpose. You just need to start listening to your body, to your intuition, to the subtle tug of joy and the quiet sting of resentment. Jung said the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who you were told to be, not who you think you should be, who you are. And that journey begins the moment you stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what is my soul trying to say? You may be stuck right now. You may feel lost, numb, even hopeless. But what if that's not the end? What if it's the invitation? What if the breakdown is just the beginning of a breakthrough? Jung believed that every crisis is a chance for transformation if you're willing to face it consciously. But most people don't. They run from the pain. They patch it with distractions. They try to get back to normal. But the truth is, normal was the problem. And the pain, that's the signal. So what's the path forward? You stop running. You turn inward. You face the parts of yourself you've exiled. The parts that are scared, angry, ashamed. And instead of judging them, you welcome them. You listen. You learn. You integrate. That's the work. That's how you shift from survival to transformation, from fragmentation to wholeness. And if you're still doubting, if you're still wondering, but what if I really am broken? Let me ask you this. Who told you that? Who taught you to believe that your pain is a problem instead of a message? Who benefits from you doubting yourself? Because the truth is, a broken person doesn't ask these questions. A broken person doesn't seek healing. A broken person doesn't feel the ache. You feel it. That means there's something alive in you, something sacred, something ready to awaken. You're not broken. You're just asleep to who you really are. And the moment you realize that, the moment you stop trying to be fixed and start trying to be found, everything opens. The path reveals itself. The confusion clears. The pain softens, not because it disappears, but because it finally has a purpose. It's no longer a punishment. It's a guide. So here's the challenge. Are you willing to trust that your life has been trying to wake you up, not punish you? Are you willing to believe that you're not here by accident, and that even your detours were part of the design? Are you willing to stop fighting your path and start listening to it? Because if you are, then you've already started. The moment you question the story of your brokenness, you begin writing a new one rooted not in shame, but in sovereignty. Then let's go further, because this is where the real work begins, the part Carl Jung called the descent. The descent isn't a fall into failure, it's a return to what you've buried. You see, most of us live at the surface, skimming through life with curated distractions and socially acceptable roles. But your soul doesn't live there. Your soul lives deep beneath the expectations, beneath the fear, beneath the illusion of control. And if you want to stop feeling broken, you have to go where the brokenness began. Not to fix it, but to understand it, to integrate it, to finally bring home the parts of you that have been exiled. Jung believed that the parts of ourselves we repress, the anger, the grief, the envy, the fear, don't disappear. They become the shadow. And the shadow isn't evil. It's just unconscious. It's everything you've been ashamed of, everything you've denied, everything you've been told is too much or not enough. And that shadow, when ignored, begins to act out. Not because it's trying to sabotage you, but because it's trying to be seen. That's why your triggers are sacred. That's why your suffering is intelligent. It's all material. It's all opportunity. It's all part of the path back to wholeness. But here's the part nobody wants to hear. Healing isn't comfortable. You're not going to meditate your way into peace if you don't have the courage to face your pain. You're not going to journal your way into alignment if you're still lying to yourself. This isn't about becoming positive. It's about becoming real. You want to stop feeling broken? Then stop pretending everything's okay. Stop smiling when your insides are screaming. Stop playing roles that suffocate your spirit. Jung would say, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. That means your patterns aren't random. They're revelations. Think about the last time you blew up, or shut down, or ghosted someone you cared about, or let yourself down again. You think that was weakness? It wasn't. It was a flare from your unconscious, a signal that there's a part of you that's been exiled, a part that's begging to come home. So what do? You stop blaming, you stop shaming, and you start listening. You start asking, what part of me felt unseen in that moment? What wound got activated? What belief about myself is running the show right now? Because that's where the shift happens, not in forcing change, but in bringing awareness. This is what Jung meant by individuation. Not becoming perfect, not becoming enlightened, becoming whole. And wholeness includes the mess. Wholeness includes the shadow. Wholeness includes the awkward, the scared, the jealous, the controlling. The goal isn't to eliminate those parts. The goal is to bring them into relationship with your higher self, to stop being dominated by your wounds and start being guided by your wisdom. That's the path. That's the return. But let's not romanticize it. This path will cost you. It will cost you your illusions. It will cost you your comfort. It will cost you your false identity. You will lose friends. You will lose roles. You will lose the version of you that was built to survive but never learned how to live. And that's okay, because what you lose isn't real. What you lose is the mask. What you gain is everything. Your voice, your clarity, your alignment, your truth. So here's a question most people avoid. What are you still pretending to be okay with? What part of your life feels like a performance? What dream are you chasing that no longer belongs to you? These questions are dangerous because they threaten the ego. But they're also liberating because they awaken the soul. And the soul doesn't care about appearances. The soul cares about alignment. The soul doesn't measure success in status or income or likes. It measures success in truth, in presence, in how fully you are living the life that belongs to you. That's the shift. That's the reorientation. You stop asking, how do I become better? And you start asking, how do I become more me? You stop trying to win the game and start trying to wake up from it. You stop seeking validation and start seeking authenticity. And in that shift, healing begins, not because the pain disappears, but because it finally has a purpose. And if you're wondering where to begin, start here. Start by being honest, brutally honest. What hurts? What are you suppressing? What are you afraid to admit even to yourself? That's your starting point. That's where the gold is buried. Jung believed that the treasure you seek is in the cave you fear to enter. And that's not poetic, that's psychological precision. Your greatest power is hidden in your greatest pain, but only if you're willing to go there, only if you're willing to feel. So feel it all. The grief, the rage, the longing, the emptiness, not to wallow, but to witness, not to drown, but to dive. Because when you stop being afraid of your inner world, you become fearless in the outer one. When you stop avoiding your own depths, you stop being manipulated by shallow things. That's the paradox. The deeper you go into yourself, the freer you become. And here's where it gets mystical. Jung didn't just believe in psychology, he believed in the soul. He believed that your dreams, your synchronicities, your inner symbols are all the language of the self trying to guide you home. You're not just healing for the sake of feeling better. You're healing because your soul has work to do. You have gifts to bring. You have wisdom to embody. And the longer you delay your path, the louder the suffering becomes. Not as punishment, but as redirection. So if you're in pain right now, good. That means something is waking up. That means something in you is tired of pretending. That means your soul is knocking. And the question is, will you open the door? Will you answer the call? Will you stop living a life that numbs you and start living one that moves you? Because you're not broken, you're becoming. And becoming isn't clean. It's chaotic. It's painful. It's sacred. And it's yours. You're not broken. You're just following the wrong path. And that's not a judgment. It's a revelation. It means all the pain, all the confusion, all the inner chaos you've been carrying, it's not a flaw in your design. It's a signal, a messenger, a sacred disruption that's been trying to wake you up and say, this isn't your truth. We live in a world that glorifies paths that don't belong to us. Paths based on performance, perfection, and pretending. Paths that reward the mask but punish the soul. And when you stay on that path too long, your very being starts to rebel. Carl Jung believed that if you ignore the call of the soul, the psyche will find a way to break through anxiety, through depression, through self-sabotage. These aren't signs that you're broken. They're signs that your inner world is trying to correct course, that something deep within you refuses to die quietly, and that something, it's not your trauma. It's not your wound. It's your essence. It's the part of you that remembers who you were before the world told you who to be. So how do you get back to that? How do you return to yourself after years of pretending, years of performing, years of performing, years of carrying identities that were never yours to begin with? You slow down, you stop, you listen. You ask the question no one taught you to ask. What do I truly want? Beyond fear, beyond expectation, beyond conditioning. And then you wait. You wait for the whisper, because it will come. It always does. But it doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It suggests gently, patiently, like a knowing that has always been there but was waiting for you to be ready. And when it comes, when you hear that whisper, you follow it. Even if it doesn't make sense, even if it scares you. Especially if it scares you, because your path isn't supposed to look like anyone else's. That's the point. Individuation, as Jung called it, is the process of becoming uniquely yourself. Not a better version of someone else. Not a perfect imitation of a guru, a parent, a system. But you, rooted, real, whole. And that journey will require you to walk away from the life you thought you were supposed to live. It might mean leaving relationships that no longer resonate. It might mean quitting a job that pays well but costs your soul. It might mean disappointing people who only love the version of you that hides your truth. But what you'll gain is something far more valuable: self-respect, inner coherence. The ability to look in the mirror and know, this is me. No mask, no filter, just me. And that kind of authenticity, it can't be bought. It can't be faked. It can only be lived. But let's be real, this path is not linear. It's not clean. There will be days you relapse into old patterns, days you forget who you are, days you wonder if you're crazy for choosing this route. That's okay. That's normal. The ego doesn't die quietly. It clings. It manipulates. It tries to pull you back into the known. But if you stay the course, if you keep choosing your truth, even when it's inconvenient, you'll begin to see something miraculous unfold. You'll begin to trust yourself again. And not the surface self, the curated, calculated self, the deeper self, the one who knows, the one who doesn't need to explain, justify, or prove, the one who simply is. And from that place, you'll start to experience life differently. You'll stop chasing meaning and start embodying it. You'll stop asking others for permission and start giving it to yourself. You'll stop fearing solitude and start craving it, because that's where the truth gets loud. And slowly, the symptoms start to fade. Not because you fixed yourself, but because you've stopped betraying yourself. The anxiety softens because you're no longer forcing yourself into boxes you've outgrown. The depression lifts because you're no longer suppressing your aliveness. The confusion clears because you're no longer following maps that lead you away from your center. You begin to realize that your suffering was never a sign of weakness, it was a sacred protest. A rebellion against a life that didn't fit your soul. This is the real revolution. Not changing the world. Changing your relationship to yourself. Because the world doesn't need more polished masks. It needs more whole humans. More people who are willing to walk their path without apology, without shame, without compromise. People who are willing to live from the inside out, not the outside in. That's what Jung meant by becoming whole. Not fixing the cracks, but honoring them. Not erasing the past, but integrating it. Not escaping pain, but transforming it into wisdom. And maybe the most radical part of all, when you do this, when you truly align with your path, you start to heal not just yourself, but your lineage, your community, the collective. Because every time you choose authenticity over approval, you give others permission to do the same. Every time you speak your truth, you break a generational chain. Every time you follow your soul instead of your programming, you shift the frequency of the world. So now the question is, are you ready? Are you ready to stop calling yourself broken and start calling yourself brave? Are you ready to stop waiting for a sign and start being the sign? Are you ready to stop surviving your life and start living it on your terms, with your voice, in your rhythm? Because no one can do this for you. Not a therapist, not a coach, not even Jung himself. They can guide, they can reflect, but only you can walk the path. And you don't have to know the whole path, just the next step, just the next truth, just the next breath, where you choose to be real instead of right, whole instead of perfect, free instead of safe. That's how it begins, step by step, truth by truth. Until one day you wake up and realize you're not broken. You never were. You were just waiting for permission to be yourself.